Okay, we just worked on factoring trinomials, and in the last ones we had it where the constant, or the last term, was positive, okay? And whenever we did that, right, when the last term was positive, what you had to do is you had to add to get the middle terms. Okay, well, we're going to move on now, and we're going to start off the next part with the constant being negative, working from where we started originally with the multiplication. Okay, so let's take a look at these two right here. First, let's take a look at this first problem. So if we multiply this out, we get x squared, and we get positive plus 2x, we get negative 5 times x, it's negative 5x, and then you get negative 10, okay, because negative 5 times 2, positive 2 will give you negative 10. Now the thing I want you to notice right now is this, okay, your x squared, that stays the same just like before, right? Your minus 10, okay, you have negative 10 there at the end, that stays the same also. So if you notice, you multiply the two last terms together, you're going to get a negative when the terms are opposite signs, right? See, one's a negative, one's a positive. Now here's the trick, okay, here's the part that you really need to notice, okay? When you are putting the two factors together, okay, you get positive 2x and negative 5x. Okay, when you put those two together, you end up with negative 3x. Okay, that's the tricky part. In this case, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be subtracting the factors, okay, instead of adding. And the important thing to know is that the sign, remember when we're doing positives and negatives, when you subtract, you keep the sign of the bigger factor. Okay, that'll make, if you can get that in your head earlier, it'll make your factoring a whole lot easier. Okay, so let's take a look at this other one over here. You get x squared minus 2x plus 5x minus 10, okay? You got that minus 10 again because you got a positive 5 times a negative 2, which gives you negative. Now, your x squared is there. Your negative 10 is there, and now you have negative 2 and positive 5, so that's going to give you positive 3x. So notice, again, our answer is the same sign as the bigger factor. Okay, so the middle term is always going to be the same as the bigger factor. Okay, all right, so let's get a little clear space here, and let's look at their example. So we have x squared minus 8x minus 20. Okay? Now, things you know right away. First, you know that they're both going to be x's in the first term. Okay? Another thing you know right away. You know that it multiplies to be a negative. And the only way you can get them negative when you multiply is if one of them is positive and one of them is negative, right? Okay. So those are two important pieces of information. So we already know the first term, we know our signs. So now we just need to figure out what our numbers are going to be. Okay? So factors of 20. We have 1 and 20. And because we're doing positive and negative, let's put it in there twice. Let's put one as positive 1 and one as negative 20. And then let's put one as negative 1 and positive 20. Okay? Then you have positive 2 and negative 10, or you have negative 2 and positive 10, or we have positive 4 and negative 5, and negative 4 and positive 5. Okay, now if you go through and put these together, so positive 1 and negative 20, it's going to give you negative 19. Negative 1 and positive 20 will give you positive 19. Positive 2 and negative 10, that'll give you negative 8. Okay, well, if you look over, negative 8 is what we're looking for. So that's the combination that we're going to use. Positive 2 and negative 10. Now I want you to look at the next one, though, before we move on. Negative 2 and positive 10, that'll give you positive 8. So we were really, really close, okay, but the trick there is you have positive 8, which is not correct. You need negative 8. So we got to make sure when we put these in that our 2 goes with our positive and our 10 goes with our negative. Okay, that's the only way you'll get the right answer, is to put the 10 with the negative 1 and 2 with the positive. Okay, so that's your little tricks there. It's basically the same thing that we did before, but you got to pay more attention now to the little tricks and which one you're putting with the negative and which one you're putting with the positive. Okay, so let's keep working. The next example, it gives you just the variables at the end. It's not a big deal again. Okay, negative AB, negative 6b squared. Okay, so you got a squared minus ab minus 6b squared. Now, hopefully you notice right away, and it doesn't freak you out, hopefully you know what the coefficient is. Okay, well, first of all, what's a coefficient? It's the number before the variables, right? Hopefully you know what the coefficient is of that middle term, because it doesn't have one right now. So the coefficient is 1, right? Okay, so don't forget that. So it's going to add up or subtract to be negative 1. Okay, so what do we know right away? We know A is in the first terms. We know B is in the last terms, right? Okay, and we know it's going to multiply to be negative 6, so one of them is going to be positive, one of them is going to be negative. So our factors can be 1 and 6, or negative 1 and 6, or 1 and negative 6, negative 1 and positive 6. Or we have 2 and 3, we'll do that twice. Negative 2, positive 3, positive 2, negative 3. So you put those together, you get negative 5. Put those together, you get 5. Put those together, negative 2 and 3 is 1, and 2 and negative 3 is negative 1. So we want negative 1. So we need our 2 to be positive and our 3 to be negative. And there is your answer. Okay, so you got 4 try these there. I want you to give those all a shot and see how it goes. Okay, so let's take a look at the try these. So the first one. We know the first terms are going to be x, and we know that when we multiply it's going to be negative, so we got a positive and a negative. Okay, factors of 12. We have 1 and 12, so negative 1, positive 12, 1 and negative 12. Negative 2, positive 6, 2, negative 6. Negative 3, positive 4, and 3, negative 4. Okay, add them up, you get 11, negative 11, 4. Oh, there we go. We want the positive 4, right? So we're good right there. So we want our 2 to be negative and our 6 to be positive. And there you go. We're done. Okay. Next one. Oh, look at this. They tried to trick us. Okay, we got x's in the front. Look at, we want a positive 12. So our signs have to be the same, right? They're either both positives or both negatives. Okay, they got a little tricky with us. So because we want them to add to be a negative, they're both going to be negatives, right? Alright, so factors of 12. 1 and 12, negative 1, negative 12. Okay, well, you know, if you put those two together, negative 1 and negative 12 will give you negative 13. So there we go. Okay, pretty simple there. Alright, they were trying to trick us, but we're too darn smart, so hopefully you guys caught that too. Alright, let's keep going. Alright, next one. A squared plus 5ab minus 14b squared. So we know we have a's in the beginning, we know we have b's in the end, and we know we got a positive and a negative because it's going to multiply to be a negative. So 14, we have 1, negative 1 and 14, 1 and negative 14, negative 2 and 7, 2 and negative 7, and that's about it. So just looking right away, negative 2 and positive 7, that will give us positive 5. So we're going to go with this set right here. So our 2 we want to be negative, our 7 we want to be positive. And there you go. And finally the last one, okay, multiplying to be a negative here. So we got x and x, we got y and y, multiplying to be a negative, so a positive times a negative, right? Okay. Our coefficient of our middle term, okay, doesn't have one, so what's the coefficient? It's 1. Alright, so 1 and 30, so negative 1 and 30, 1 and negative 30, 2, negative 15, negative 2 and 15. Hopefully you don't have to do all this stuff. Hopefully you're starting to catch a little trend going on. Negative 3 and 10, 3 and negative 10, negative 5 and 6, and 5 and negative 6. And hopefully you're kind of putting these together in your head as you go through, and you'll realize that the very last one, 5 and negative 6, you put those together, you get negative 1, right? So we want 6 to be negative, and we want 5 to be positive. Alright, hopefully you got kind of the hang of how this is all working out. Give those a shot. You got some work to do along with it.